This 60-move game proves why knights are freaking awesome. This is round 5 of the Sacramento Championship in Sacramento, California, and I'm playing in the under 2000 section. My published rating is 1996, but my live rating is over 2000, and I'm playing one of the other tournament leaders in round 5. Entering this round, I have 3.5 out of 4. So does Yudhin, my young opponent, who is from the area, I believe, or maybe in Nevada, maybe from Reno. I don't know. But yeah, the time control is game in 90 plus 30 seconds per move, so kind of a longer time control. And this is a no engine recap until the very end of this video. And this game was insane, and it was so tense. We didn't trade a single piece until move 26. So with that being said, he played e4, I played d6, and I'm going to transpose into the Philidor with the move e5. I like to do the perk move order with starting with d6 and knight f6 because my opponents don't know on move 3, am I going to play g6 or am I going to play e5? And after bishop d3, I play e5. And hoping to get him into unfamiliar territory, he plays c3, defending his center. And so now if I take, he has a big white center, which I don't want to give my opponent 2 center pawns side by side like this. This is not very good. So I just maintain the tension. I play bishop e7. He plays h3, which I guess it's to, he wants to play bishop e3 at some point and not have to worry about knight g4. So, and he also wants to make sure I don't develop my bishop, I guess. So h3, I guess it's a pretty reasonable move. I guess it is a reasonable move in a lot of perk positions where you want to put your bishop on e3. So I just castle. He goes knight f3. I go knight bd7 here. He plays knight f3. It develops a piece, but also applies more pressure on the e5 pawn. So I have to develop my knight to defend the e5 pawn, because once again I still don't want to take because he has a big white center, which is not very good for me. So then he castles, and now I go c6, potentially planning to expand on the queen side with b5 and a5, and also just developing a piece like normal. I'm going to play rook e8, bishop f8, and continue like that. Very solid setup for black. He plays a4, expanding on the queen side, preventing b5, and I just play rook e8, just going to continue developing. He plays rook e1, makes sense. There's a lot of action happening, a lot of pieces and tension on the e file, and I just go bishop f8 here, and so x-raying his e4 pawn, also x-raying his rook. He develops a piece, defending his e4 pawn one more time, and then I go h6 here. And already I was sort of thinking about like, hey, maybe I'm going to start, pushing on the king side a little bit. Maybe I'm going to go g6, bishop g7, move my knight out of the way, play f5 here, because right now my pawns, my d6 and e5 pawns are kind of pointing towards the king side. So maybe I'll start playing on the king side eventually. I'm not going to play it quickly. I'm going to play it slowly. I'm going to play this position very slowly, wait to see what he does. My bishop that hasn't moved on c8, well, it actually can be quite useful in a king side attack because it's already pointing towards white's king. So after h6, he plays queen c2, one step closer to connecting his rooks, and then I play g6. He moves his knight out of the way. I have bishop g7, and one of the ideas is for him to bring his knight to e3 or g3, and then it attacks the f5 and d5 squares. And I kind of have a similar idea. I play after bishop to 2, I play knight f8 with the idea to go to e6 and maybe pressurize f4. I would love to get a knight to e6, another knight to h5, and land one of them on f4. So after he takes with his bishop, my other knight can hop in. So I would love to get really good control of the f4 square, land a knight there because it's a beautiful outpost if I'm allowed to get there. But I'm not allowed to because he plays a rook 81. I thought about playing a knight e6, but I was like, this is just kind of annoying to calculate. Like, it's probably totally fine for me, but like to just leave this x-ray in place. But I didn't want to have to calculate it. I guess in this specific case, I can't play knight e6 anyways because this pawn is just hanging. And then there's some random tactics where like I sack my knight back, so then I attack his knight. But I guess in this case, he could take with his rook anyway, so that's not even good in the first place. I do have this move now, so now the bishop's hanging, the rook's hanging. It's a wild complications, but he probably, I don't know what I would have done. So I just played queen c7. Very simple, just getting out of the line of sight of the rook on d1, and I'm guarding e5. So now when I play knight e6, the rook no longer guards the e5 pawn, but my queen will still guard the e5 pawn. And so he goes knight g3, I go knight e6, and we're both kind of just like, hey, what's going on here? What's going on? And he goes b4. He's saying like, hey, I centralize all my pieces. now I'm going to, just expand on the queen side. And it's move 16, and we have not traded a single piece or pawn. How often does that happen? And guess what? It continues. We don't trade for quite a long time. I go h5, which I annotated some of these moves, and so this exclamation point and question mark means it's interesting. Like, I think h5 is a very interesting move, and my idea is, hey, maybe I'm going to go h4 at some point. And if you go h4, well, now I have the g4 square. Maybe I'm going to move my knight and play bishop g4 and pin your knight and try to win this h4 pawn. I mean, this h4 pawn can be potentially weak since you haven't played g3. So I'm kind of giving a square. The g5 square is more weak now. He can place a knight or bishop there, but I'm giving a square to get a square. This h5, maybe h4 idea if he allows me at the right moment. It's kind of staying flexible here. I'm also moving this pawn off of h6 because there are some ideas where maybe I'll move my knight to d7 and I'm attacking d4 a bunch of times, like takes on d4, takes. Oh, whoops, takes, and the pawn on h6 is hanging. So I win a pawn in the center, but I lose a pawn near my king. Maybe I don't want that. But now when I play h5, well, now if I move my knight and take on d4 a bunch of times, now my h6 pawn is not hanging at all. So it's kind of a useful move to poke and prod on the king side, get my pawn off of the h6 diagonal, and so maybe I'm going to move my knight towards the center to pressurize the center. Maybe I'm going to move it to the queen side. Maybe I'm going to play h4. I'm poking and prodding. It's move 16. I'm playing someone 300 points lower rated than me. I got to try to win this game. Bishop c1. And here is where I play a very interesting move. I played h5, which I thought was very interesting. And I play a5. So I'm doing the delayed crab, a5, h5, and I genuinely don't know if this was good or not. In the long run, because I knew one of his ideas, because my idea was, firstly, he can't take. If his bishop was on d2, he could take and then bring his rook over to defend the a4 pawn and push and have discovered attacks. Not that he would want to take, but he has the opportunity to take if he wants to. I don't know what he would have done if I played a5 when bishop was on d2, but now he definitely cannot take because now I just simply win the a4 pawn. I attack it twice. There's no possible way for him to defend it one more time, so I just win a pawn. So he can't take. So I knew he was going to play b5, and now his pawn is kind of fixed on the a4 square, and this actually came to be very, very, very useful. And now we see the amalgamation of my ideas. I go knight d7, attacking d4 one more time, and there's some interesting complications. Let's say you waste a move, white wastes a move. After I take on d4, there's some ideas of maybe if this pawn wasn't here, you could play bishop g6 and attack the bishop, but after e5, then I could simply take back with the bishop, and I'm doing quite well here. He has a lot of pieces hanging towards my king, so it feels like, oh man, is that sacrifice going to work here? It looks awfully close to working. Oh, I can't play bishop g7 because the rook hangs. Oh wait, the rook hangs regardless. Oh wait, hold up. Would this would have been bad for me? I mean, I knew there would be complications, but bishop takes g6 is maybe I have to go here. So then if he takes, maybe I just go and give a check here, and after takes, maybe I can just go takes. And my king's weak, but I'm up 2 pawns. Maybe it's not so bad, but it's definitely kind of scary, but probably good for black. So I have some ideas of taking on d4 now. So he goes bishop e3. He defends d4 with his bishop and also eyes the c5. He x-rays the c5 and b6 squares. And here, already it feels like my play didn't really pay off because I played knight b6 and he responds with rook b1, which I think is an excellent move. Although, in hindsight, considering how the game did turn out, I wonder if rook b1 isn't actually the best move. Maybe you should have tried to open up the queen side while you had the chance. Maybe taking on b6 now and then playing rook b1, maybe this is actually the right way to play because now, because because black wants to perhaps play on the queen side, on the king side, and is white really better poised to play on the queen side than white? I actually don't know if black is better poised or not. I'm not super sure. I know one of my ideas, if takes on c6 and rook b1, was like maybe playing bishop a6 here. Although now there might be some tactics here with d takes e5 here, because the knight is hanging, and if I take, then he can just take back, and this, I've lost a pawn, and it's not looking too happy. So I'm not sure what I would have done if he took on b6 or on c6 and then play rook b1. Like, I think this was the way to go. So I'm actually going to re-annotate the game I just played, because I think actually this game is, or this is actually kind of a mistake. I think this is a mistake, actually. I think actually b takes a6. I think this was the way forcing. I'm annotating it right now. I'm saying forcing the queen side open. White is better poised to take advantage of the open queen side. So I think this was the way he had to play, but instead of that, he played rook b1 first, which gave me the opportunity. I'm using the opportunity to shut things down, because I have to. If I don't, I'm gonna get killed on the queen side. So I play c5, and if he takes on c5 with the d pawn, I'm kind of happy here. I might take with my knight. I could also take with the pawn as well. Actually, the world is my oyster. I think both are fine. Let's say I take with the knight, and let's say he wants to keep his bishop pair. Then you have to go back, and then the a5 pawn drops. So he might be forced to give up his bishop pair, and maybe I can try to play d5 at some point to open up the position for my bishops, for my newly acquired bishop pair. So I think d5 is the right choice by him to just shut things down. He has more space on the queen side, more space on the king's in the center, and so he's doing quite okay here. Knight f8. But I have one idea. I have one last idea. I played a little bit on the queen side. That was a mistake. So instead, I'm going to play f5. And just a note here, I think I didn't have to, maybe after b5, maybe that's when I play c5 immediately. Maybe this is when I should play c5, just to shut everything down. I think that's what I should have done, most likely. Maybe just play bishop d7, and if he plays a5 and continues expanding on the queen side, maybe I can play like bishop f8 and knight g7 and queen c8 and play for f5. Move my knight out of the way and play f5. Like, maybe that's what I should do. Just like not touch the queen side at all and just play for f5. Like, maybe that's what I should do. I'm not really sure. I feel like white is slightly better, and maybe like doing the pawn break is not good for black. But at the same time, if white's not going to do something, I got to win this game. So that's probably what I maybe should have done instead. But yeah, after c5 is played, he plays d5, and I bring my knight back. So now I'm going to play f5. He plays c4. He didn't have to play c4 yet. If he didn't play c4 and just play like a random move, like I don't know, bishop d2, I can't go. Oh wait, no, not bishop d2. Let's say like rook a1, for example. I can't go c4 yet because he can take, attacking my queen, and after I take, he can take the pawn. So not super good for me. If he takes me, I can maybe take him, and then if he takes me, I can take him, but then he takes me. So not super good. So my opponent plays c4 and plays rook a1. So after I move my knight to h7, one idea, well, firstly, I want to control g5. That's my first idea. More than that, I'm also preparing to go queen e7 to guard g5 even more, and then play h4 to force his g knight back, because his g3 knight is guarding f5. So I want to remove the guard of the f5 square and add another attacker on the f5 square and to play f5. This is really my main idea, so I'm setting it up. I'm playing knight h7 to set it up in the long run. He plays rook a1, just to guard the a4 pawn. So the one benefit of me playing a5 and knight b6 is like, hey, look, this pawn is a weakness. It's actually not super easy to defend this pawn. My knight is actually doing a lot of work here, attacking these two potentially, very weak pawns. I play queen e7, guarding g5, attacking h4, well, guarding h4, I guess. And then he plays rook a2. So I think he was worried about some sort of like nonsense with like, let's say he just plays a random move like king h1. Like I think he was worried about some sort of nonsense with f5 and like an e4. Attacking the rook, but this wouldn't be very good because like after takes and takes and takes. I mean, firstly, I've given up 2 pawns. Secondly, my king side is wide open, and I don't have my dark square bishop to defend my king. So this just cannot be good for black at all. So I don't think he had to play rook a2, but he did. And then I played rook f8. Preparing f5, and now he played a queen d2. So if he played h4 to stop h4 and then f5, then I probably would have played bishop g4, and then he could maybe play knight g5, and if this happened, I could play bishop f6, and if he takes, then this h4 pawn is undefendable. He could play f3, and then I could probably actually just take and take and take. And my king's kind of naked, but it's probably winning. I'm up a rook after all. So that was my plan. If he stopped me from playing h4 by playing h4 himself. So after rook f8, he plays queen d2, guarding the g5 square, but it's too little, too late. I play h4. If you go bishop g5, attacking my queen, I'll just take twice and then take your knight. So that's not possible. And so he moves his knight back to f1, and now my pawn is doing a good job here. And now I play f5. I prepared it for literally. For literally like 6 moves. Like I think back in 4 moves. Knight h7 was my first preparatory move to play f5, and then move 26 I played f5. And if you look at the position, we still haven't traded a single pawn or piece. Now it's move 27. He plays bishop g5, which I think it's a mistake, most likely. And the very first trade, I get a much better position, maybe simply winning. Maybe this position is just simply winning. So I don't think he had to do that. Maybe he can play queen c2, and I would have to decide, do I play f4? Blocking out his bishop, and now it's kind of like a King's Indian defense, and maybe I'm going to play g5, g4. I have the only pawn break in the position, and maybe I can move my king over to the queen side. I can make king f7, king e8, king d7, get my king to c7, move mine out of the way, play b6, and then slowly bring my other pieces to the attack. Since the one who controls the pawn breaks control the game, and so my h4 and f4 pawns clamp on the king side, so I can probably just win very slowly by only having the only pawn break in the position. I would have to think about that, but maybe queen c2 is better. If he doesn't play queen c2, then f4 would trap his bishop, so that's not very good for him. But he eventually decides on bishop g5, and I think for about 15 minutes, just to make sure this endgame was winning. Originally, my plan after bishop g5 was bishop f6, and I thought, oh yeah, this is pretty good, because if he takes, then I still get what I want. I can play g5 and maybe take, or play g4. But I really like queen h6, and I was like, wait a second, this is kind of annoying. He's attacking the h4 pawn twice. If I defend, we could trade queens, and I like this endgame for me. My knight is still much better than his bishop. But then I was like, wait a second, he can play like queen h5, and I was like, this is kind of annoying, actually. This is really annoying. If, he actually can maybe play knight h2, knight g4 at the right moment, and suddenly I don't really like my position that much. I don't really know how I feel about this. I really don't. So, and I was really trying to find a way, hey, can I trap the queen on h5? Can I go, queen g7 and rook f6, but then there's queen e8 check. I'm I don't know. Is this really right? And if I don't play precisely, queen g7, knight e3, or maybe taking, here, and now if I take, he can take, and if I take, he goes 93, and then I can go back. I'm like, is this really the best way to play? Suddenly my pawns just feel kind of overextended, but maybe this is still good because his rooks aren't really participating while my rooks are. But this pawn on g5 is weak, which is really annoying. So that was my first intention was bishop f6 to go, but then queen h6 just looked really annoying. And then you also had bishop h6 as well, but I wasn't really too concerned about bishop h6. I have really good control over g5 now, which I was super happy with. And if he takes, once again, I have the big center, which looks pretty good. So I wasn't like too concerned with bishop h6, but it was really just like taking on f6 and playing queen h6, what was super annoying to me. I didn't know how to deal with that. And then I realized, wait a second, if I just take on g5 and take on g5 again and play bishop f6, if he plays knight f3, I'm super happy. I actually win by force because I can take on e4, forking his pieces. If he takes with the bishop, I take his pawn on c4 and I'm up a pawn. And then if he takes with the rook, I can play bishop f5, attacking his rook. If he moves it to defend his bishop, then I trade and I take on c4. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a second. Like, this position is really, really good for me. And so after I attack his knight, he goes knight e6 actually. And I was like, this is just not good because now I take and go rook bishop g5 first. If I go rook a e8 first, then he can take and take, which is, I don't want to lose my f5 pawn for nothing. So I go bishop g5. I go bishop g5, which I thought was a really excellent move, and now he goes knight e3, which I consider a huge mistake here, because now I take on e3, and I get the ideal knight versus bishop endgame. I mean, have you seen a position where the knight has so much more potential than this bishop? This bishop has no potential. This bishop has never moved out of its parents' house, while this knight is already making $1 million a year. This knight is really, really good. And I centralize my rook to attack the pawn. So firstly, this knight is good where it's at. It's going to hop around later, but that's later. Right now, let's maximize our pieces. Let's centralize the rook, take the pawn, and step two, target this, trade on e4 when the time is right, and limit any counterplay. Right now, he doesn't really have any way to activate his pieces. This rook is stupid, defending the pawn. And this bishop is defending the c4 pawn. And this rook can't really get in. Like, what is he going to do? King h2 and g3? He could try, but now he's opening up the position for my rooks. So he has to be very careful. If he tries to get active, it makes my pieces more active. So it was rook I1, just shuffling. He can't do anything in this position. I go king g7. He go king h2. Maybe he'll go g3. Maybe not, though. But if he does go g3, like, for example, rook f6, g3, he can't even go g3 because I just take and go fork. So he really has no pawn breaks. His rook is passive, defending the a4 pawn. His bishop is passive, defending the c4 pawn. And his king cannot activate. His other rook can't activate. He has no pawn breaks, no hope. So it's very simple and rudimentary from here. I didn't have to think at all during this portion of the game. And there's 20 moves left to go, over 20 moves left to go, and I didn't have to think at all for this portion. I gained time during this portion because it's 30 seconds bonus per move. I gained time, or I stayed around the same time for the entirety of this game. Rook a2, king h6, so just activating the king because there's no need to rush. I could take on e4 now, but why rush? I can just improve my king first. And I play rook 8 f7. So now, because my idea is, I want to take on e4, and if the bishop takes, then take on c4. But now I lose the b7 pawn, and he has a pass pawn. I don't want to calculate. I'm just going to defend. I'm just going to preemptively, defend the b7 pawn first, and then after king g1, I'm just going to go, rook g7 here, getting off of the light square diagonal. Because there are some ideas of, like, for example, like if we went bishop c2, if I took on c4, he could play bishop b3 here, which is just annoying because now I'm going to lose an exchange here because I'm going to move the knight. Whoops, move the knight and lose a rook. So I go. So I move my rook on a dark square. So now if it goes bishop c2, I can simply take it, and there's no pin in this position at all. And then but after he goes rook f2, so he shuffles a little bit. I go king g5 here, activating my king a little bit more. Why? Because I can, and there's no rush. I can take on e4 whenever I want. Let me improve. Let me maximize my pieces first, and then take on e4. He continues shuffling around. I take on e4. He takes with the rook. I play rook f4. This was my idea. So because if you take with the pawn, I get the open file. If you take with the bishop, I win the pawn. If you take with the rook, well, now I challenge your rook with my rook. And if you double up, I double up. And now I'm simply going to continue trading and get into a knight versus bishop endgame where your bishop is very, very bad. That's my idea. I can even take, if I really want to take it, also just after he doubles up, I could also take the pawn now, but there's no need to take the pawn now. That's kind of rushing things because if he takes my rook, if I take with the pawn, now his rook has an open file, so he has some counterplay. And then if I take with the king, then he has a check, and his rook gets a little bit more active, which is, why do this when I don't have to? There's no need for this. There's no need to allow this sort of counterplay. So after I play rook f4, he goes back to a1. So once again, just shuffling. And I take on e4. He takes back with the pawn. I play rook f7. He plays rook a2. So now I have the open file. So like step 2 is complete. Is it step 2 or step 3? I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm slowly making progress. There is no rush here. He has 0 counterplay. So this position is very fun. I go knight d7, he goes rook d2, and suddenly it's like, okay, he might have some counterplay against my d6 pawn. It shouldn't matter, but I don't want to calculate. Like, legitimately, I don't want to calculate. So I put my knight back, attacking his a4 pawn. He defends it again, and I'm like, okay, king f6, or firstly, rook f4. I could play king f6 now, but I was like, there's a check here, and I guess if he did trade, there's nothing to really worry about because this endgame is winning for me. So I don't know why I went rook f4 first. I just didn't want to think. So I just played rook f4. He shuffled again, and now I brought my king to e7, and then he keeps shuffling, and then I bring my knight around, and then he keeps shuffling. He plays rook e2 preemptively, anticipating my knight hopping in and attacking stuff, I guess. I just play b6. I don't have to play b6, but I thought like b6 could be a source of counterplay for him. Like, for example, if we played b6 now, like, and knight h5, like rook here, knight here, rook here. I'm like, I mean, he's got some counterplay, takes, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is, there are some positions where this could be losing for me, actually, It doesn't seem very good. It's here, like, why am I doing this? Like, here, I allowed way too much counterplay already. So I play b6. That's why I play b6. And then he starts shuffling on the e-file. I go knight h5. He goes rook e2. Okay. So I solidified the queen side, allowed no counterplay. I improved my rook. I improved my knight. Now what? Okay, so now it's step like 4 or 5. I don't know which step it is. Now I'm going to go knight g3, g4, g5, and break in on the king side to eventually infiltrate. That's my goal. So I play g5. And he could just keep shuffling. If he keeps shuffling, what I'm going to do is play knight g3. And if he keeps shuffling, so I'm attacking the e4 pawn. So he has to keep defense of e4. And if he keeps shuffling, I'm just going to go king here, here, here. And if he takes, I can either go king g5. I might start with king g5. And then after go back, I can take here. And if he goes here, now I can consider a couple things. First, I can consider going knight h5. And, so now he doesn't have to keep guard at e4, but like if he goes here, I can go here. And now I'm attacking g2 2 times, and how is he going to defend? If he goes here, then I can go, well, first I attack the bishop, actually. If he goes here, then I can maybe go h3. And if g3, I can just go, oh, this is a bit more tricky. I went wrong somewhere. The point is, I want to get the right configuration to break in on the king side. That's my plan. So in this position, actually, with knight h5, if he just continues shuffling, maybe I can actually just go rook g3, actually. Because if he gives me a check, I can always go back. And if he goes here, then I can go forward. And if he goes bishop f3, then I can probably just go h3 now. And so this is probably the way for me to go forward, to move forward in the position. And if king h2, I can probably just take. Because if he takes my rook, I promote to a queen. If he takes, I take. So this is probably just perfectly fine in and of itself. So this should be winning when I break through at the right moment on the king side. That's if he doesn't trade rooks. But for some reason, after g5, he goes rook f2. And, I mean, this position is really tough to play anyways, but after I hop my knight in, he trades on f4, which I give as the final mistake of the game, because now I take on f4 with my e-pawn, and now I have a clear path on the dark squares into his position, and it's game over. He has zero counterplay. King f2, king up, king up, king up, and now he moves his bishop back. My king attacked his bishop, and now I go knight f1, which is a really nice move, a knight's move indeed, because if he goes a king g4, I have a fork here, and yeah, if he wants, he can go for this and lose a couple pawns, well, win a couple pawns, but now I can go knight e3, I can go knight e3, and if he goes king g5, I can take the pawn, defend my own pawn, and this is a very rudimentary win. I can take this pawn. If he goes here, I can go here, and if he takes, I can take, and I'm just going to push my pawn and win the game. I do have to be a little bit careful here. So, yeah, I do have to be a little bit careful. For example, maybe instead of taking this pawn, I can just push my pawn. So if he starts pushing his pawn, then I can go here. So this is probably the way I have to go, because now if he pushes, I just sack, and I promote way before him. I should probably not do that. I should probably do this instead. And then so if he takes, I can take. Yeah, this is probably the way to go. There's only 2 legal moves here for him. If he goes here, I can take, and if he pushes, I go check. I go check here and mate. So losing the bishop is a little bit tricky, but I should just be winning. Also, if I do give this check and he takes, I also have the option to just take on g2 and defend both my pawns like this. So now if he goes here, I can take, because what else are you going to do? If you go here, I can still go king e3, preparing f3, f2, f1, queen. So now if you go here, then I can probably... what do I want to do? I can probably just take the pawn. Oh, no, I can't. That's a fork. So probably if there, I just take... Oh, no, I can't take that pawn yet. I can probably go here, because now if you go king f3, now I can give a check and win this pawn. And I'm going to promote my pawns way before you promote your pawns. So it should be easy peasy from there. So after king c2, play knight f1, he goes bishop d1 to get out of any forks, but still you can't go king g4 because there's another fork. I go knight e3, he moves his bishop, I move my king over to the queen side, and he resigns. This was truly a beautiful game where the knight was eons better than the bishop, and it wasn't even close. And this is why I love knights. And this tournament really has been the story of the knights being better than bishops. I never reach an endgame with a bishop versus a knight where I'm like, ooh, I'm so glad I have the bishop. No, I've never thought about that. I never thought that way before my life. I never think, oh my gosh, the bishop's so good here. No, that's never happened. It's always a knight's better. Anyways, so I enter round 5 as the only person with 4.5 out of 5. The only person. Everyone else has 4 points out of 5, and so now all the other tournament leaders, I should say, have 4 points out of 5. So now I have a draw odds. So now if I draw my next game, I get first place, and I win the tournament. So it's a good feeling. So I'll see you guys next one.